We're back with another reflection on the daily Vedantic. In today's episode, we're going to talk about why you should pee in pools. Or more specifically, we're going to talk about why that would be the title of a video. In an algorithmically driven world, that title crushes. But what is the difference between a title that provokes and timelessness? That might seem it's something you've heard 1,000 times, but has no clickbait, has no provocation, seemingly has nothing novel about it. Well, in the world we live in today, novelty rules. If you can point to one contrarian thing that people have not heard of, or is the opposite of what the conventional wisdom points to, something new, it is catnip for our attention. In the last 10 years, we have seen these algorithms take over our lives, driven by a gold rush of provocation. Whether it is political content that feeds the algorithm because there is argumentation back and forth in the comments, therefore, an algorithm for, let's say, Facebook or Instagram says, all right, we should serve this up for more people. Or whether it's something like new science that overturns conventional wisdom, timelessness, conventions, the old, in many ways, has been tossed out, has no algorithmic value. There is no positive reason to pee in pools. But if you could find one, some scientific reason on why people should pee in pools, my God, would that crush in a world that is yearning for new information, new insights, hacks, tricks, pro tips. But here is the truth. The truth is timeless. As the Rig Veda says, truth is one, sages call it by many names. It can have different names, different articulations. It can have colloquial nature to it. It can feel modern in certain contexts, but it is still the timeless truths. And over the last 10, 15 years, we've lived in a world that is out with the old and in with the new. But the last few years, there has been a shift. I've noticed this shift where there is a yearning for timelessness. Not a yearning for novelty. It's as if we've gone through the great adolescence where we've tried our hand at all kinds of novel things, and now we're trying to get back to what actually works. What are the timeless truths? Maybe it's philosophical in the rise of Stoicism, the vertical line rise of interest in Vedanta. Eastern philosophy, a rediscovery, a rescue of the philosophy of, say, Christianity. These things are happening because, and this is my view, because the world is changing so fast. Newness does not help us. We want the antidote to newness. We want the anti-venom to newness, where more new is more disorienting. And what we want is stability. A way to plant ourselves in a foundation of stability to where we can handle everything that is changing in our world so fast. Mike Maples, one of the great venture capitalists and one of the investors in Magic Mind, he's the first investor in Magic Mind. And he said about a year ago, he said, the world is getting weirder faster. We were at dinner and he just said that. For a venture capitalist, they want novelty, and yet it was said with a hint of disorientation, not excitement. The world is getting weirder faster. In a world that is getting weirder faster, I question the value of a new factoid, a new study that gets you 2% gains on this or that versus a reinforcement on the timeless foundations to living a life well lived. In other words, you can choose that new shiny thing. You can click on the new insight that might give you a slight edge tomorrow in the way that you wake up or in your bedtime routine. Or you can plant yourself in the fertile ground of timeless truths. And the way you do that is not through clicking on something new. It's actually an art form that we don't even discuss in the West. And that is reflection on what's been heard, read, seen. Said another way, that reflection, 20%, Swami will say this to the ashram often, 20% listening, 80% reflection. 20% reading, 80% reflection. The three perennial practices of Vedanta are Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Listening, reflection, and then experiencing or meditation. But those first two, and then each one leads to the next. Listening and then reflection can be further articulated by this emphatic point within this philosophy that reflection is 100,000 times more powerful. Reflection is 100,000 times more powerful than listening. In other words, reflection is so much more powerful than hearing something insightful for the first time, second time, third time, feeling inspired for 5-6 minutes until something else catches our attention. It's so much more powerful than feeling inspired for a few minutes. That the listening part, in comparison, has nearly no utility. Like the listening part is so foundational, yes, but not nearly as invaluable as the reflection on what you've heard. It's such a contrast, 100,000 times more powerful. It's such a contrast that without reflection, the listening is pointless. So how do we build a life where we're firmly planted in the fertile ground of timeless truths, of clarity that has been time tested for 4, 5, 6,000 years, for thousands of years, and not on some new thing that was in a study last month that now we've seen with the replication crisis within science, that some new study that shows something in 1998 can't be reproduced in 2005, 2010. Something insightful with even 1,000 people in 2022 can't be replicated in 2023 or 2024. It's hardly something to build our lives around. Don't get me wrong. We make huge strides with new insights, but they are like the leaves of the tree. The small optimizations around the edges versus the roots being planted. And a philosophy like Vedanta, which is the manual for living life well. The reflection for today is on the continual reminder within this philosophy of the power of reflection, the need to hear something 100 times, maybe a couple hundred times, maybe a couple lifetimes of reflecting on something that we might feel like we understand, but reflecting on it 100 times, a couple hundred times, helps take us from hearing it to experiencing it. That is today's reflection in the midst of a sea of provocation, of clickbait, of people trying to steal your attention with something new instead of a reminder of that which has always been. We'll see you next time on the Daily Vedantic.